Did the Vols get enough out of these players considering what they did in pro day? Hot or cold? Right now, City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. CityHeatandAir.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's start with James Pierce. I don't really care what he did at pro day. They didn't get enough out of James Pierce. I'm cold on James Pierce. I'm sorry. I mean, he could have run a 5.4, and I still would be like, they didn't get enough out of James Pierce.
Well, what's standing out about James Pierce the most is he spoke out a lot more at this one. He basically he said he went out of his way to let teams know that he does have good character. He's not this selfish player that they think he is, that he does care, that he does want to win, and that he's a great guy, great teammate, great player, people person. And he said, I want them to know I have a good heart. I believe him on that, to be fair. I mean, I think that James Pierce has been getting a lot of unfair criticism for nothing. I mean, there was no sign of him being a chemistry problem at Tennessee ever. So
I will completely defend him on that. There was a terrible tragedy that occurred right before the season that affected him. I will completely defend him, but I think that Tennessee could have put him in a better position to be more productive.
I could believe you on that. I could believe you. Tennessee definitely could have put him in a better position to be more productive. But in terms of just I don't think his character was an impediment to what he did last year at all, honestly. I don't think it stopped him from being effective.
Totally agree. I think he may have been down and depressed because of the tragedy that happened before the season. I think that could have affected him, but that's not a character issue. We're all depressed from time to time.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he channeled it right. I thought he played fine. So yeah, I agree. I'm hot. So you're hot if you think Tennessee misused him, right?
Yeah, I was going to go cold. But
okay, cold. Well, I'm still hot. I think Tennessee, I've disagreed with you. I thought X's and O's wise, they used him fine.
Okay.
I thought they wanted him more in coverage. So,
all right, Dylan Sampson. I mean, again, this is a guy that no matter what he did at pro day, Tennessee utilized him. I mean, he was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. I'm hot on Dylan Sampson.
I'm scorching hot on Dylan Sampson. What more could you ask for? The homeboy set the Tennessee record in a single season for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. I mean, Tennessee literally, and by the way, he only played 12 games. He didn't even play a 13th game because he got hurt against Ohio State.
Okay. Then Dante Thornton. Do you have his speed and vertical? Because I know it was really good, but I'm having trouble pulling it up.
Dante Thornton clocked at the combine. He clocked a 4.340, straight up flat 4.3. His vertical I don't have on me at the moment, but okay, here we go. It was a 33-inch vertical. 33-inch vertical, 4.340, which suggests straight line speed, but not going to win one-on-one battles. Right?
Yeah. Cold. I don't think they got enough out of him. That may have been a bit of a character issue.
Cold, but not because of the Vols, because Dante Thornton battled injuries. I think Dante Thornton could not stay healthy, and what you needed, we're going to go to another player in a second. The way you needed Dante Thornton to be effective was for another wideout to be able to be at full strength, and he never got to full strength, and that's who we're getting to pretty soon.
Yep. Oh, and Derek says, JP to the Cowboys, Dave, or the Commanders. In other words, he's asking, my ultimate compliment is I want you to be a Cowboy. I would love for James Pierce to be a Cowboy. I think you just let him go, and he's great. And I think you get value because I think he's going to slip into the second round. So sorry to be selfish and take up some time there. Brew McCoy, how did he do?
Brew McCoy stood out. Again, Brew McCoy's mentality, his intelligence, his approach to the game has really stood out to a lot of guys. That was all valuable for Tennessee. I'm cold on Brew with his Tennessee time because of the injury. And by the way, the injury is why I'm cold on Dante, because Dante had 600 yards receiving last year and 6 touchdowns. I actually thought that was fine. The only thing that hurt Dante was he didn't have Brew McCoy on the other side to dictate coverage. And if he did, Dante Thornton probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver and a Biletnikoff candidate.
That's a great point. I've got to be cold on him. I don't think Tennessee got enough out of him, but it has nothing to do with him. It's because he
was hurt.
he had a terrible, terrible injury that affected his explosion. Let me throw something crazy at you that just crossed my mind. You know, they tried to get David Martin. You remember David Martin?
Yep.
They tried to get him to move to tight end because he was a big guy, he was physical, and he absolutely wouldn't do it. Well, he goes to the Green Bay Packers. First thing they do is they say, what? They say, hey, buddy, you're moving to tight end. Well, when you're getting a paycheck, which you didn't back then, you're going to move. And he moved. And do you remember that Monday Night Football game where he was the talk of the game and how they got a steal and they moved him to tight end and he had like 5 catches? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yes, I do, actually.
So
Funny
what
enough.
about Brew McCoy to tight end? Am I talking crazy?
No, not in this day and age, because they line tight ends up off the line of scrimmage now. So
they're more H-backs than tight ends. He's not going to have a man on his face that he has to block.
No, that's a great point.
I have my moments. Norman-Lott. I'm hot on him. I thought that Tennessee got every bit of his ability. I don't know if you have his pro day numbers pulled up.
Well, he ran the 40, but they haven't tracked it. But I got other numbers on the NFL draft files have been pulled. Did you know Norman-Lott led the nation among pass rush win rate among interior defensive linemen this past year? Now, pass rush win rate, it's an advanced stat to say, like, how often did you win your battle on a passing play against the person blocking you? Norman-Lott's pass rush win rate was 18.9%, highest in the nation. He was the best pass rushing. He's the best pass rushing defensive tackle I've seen since John Henderson for Tennessee.
So you didn't think Albert Haynesworth was better than Henderson?
I thought Albert Haynesworth was probably a better player overall, but John Henderson was a better pass rusher. He had 12 sacks as a defensive tackle in a season.
That's a good point. I just think if Albert Haynesworth had been focused, he would have had 12 sacks. But I think there was a tendency to take some plays off.
But see, when John Henderson drew all the double teams in 2001, Albert Haynesworth didn't go get 12 sacks when he had more of a clear path. So that's why.
Norman-Lott.
That's what we just talked about.
I'm sorry. Elijah Simmons, excuse me. I'm cold because of the injuries. How did he do in his testing?
Coaches are in love with Elijah Simmons. They are in love with his physical ability. They don't understand how he wasn't utilized at Tennessee more, but they don't understand the fact that Tennessee runs a lot of depth at defensive line. And I'm cold on how he was used at Tennessee too. But again, battled injuries.
Yep. And I hate the fact that Josh Heupel, just get back to James Pierce, has to come out and defend James Pierce. And really, it's a personal issues, man. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. I've defended him. You know how I feel. I feel like I'm pretty fair. If I didn't think that Pierce was a stand-up guy, I would tell you. Omari Thomas, I felt like Tennessee got all they could out of him. As a matter of fact, I don't think he's as physically gifted as Simmons, as Norman-Lott. I think Omari Thomas, I'm hot on Omari Thomas and what Tennessee got out of him.
I agree. Omari Thomas is the classic case of an overachiever. Like, he's probably not going to be an NFL guy. If he is, it'll be like Matthew Butler. He will be a late round pick who rides the bench. I love the guy. Great leader. Being a great guy might be enough to get him drafted late, i.e. Josh Dobbs. But his physical tools aren't there like the other guys, and Tennessee got everything they could possibly get out of that guy.
Yep, there you go. Next.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Hey, there we go. Cooper Mays. Needless to say, Tennessee got everything they could out of Cooper Mays, a guy that was a 3-star, undersized, supposedly couldn't play, and turns out to be an all-SEC center. Cooper Mays is the ultimate story of a guy who took his rating and said, you can shove that where the sun doesn't shine.
Tennessee's misuse of his health in the 2023 offseason can make you a little cold on him, though, because their misuse of his health is why they lost to Florida that year. And so through not his fault, you could say they maybe did not get everything they could have gotten out of Cooper Mays because they screwed up in handling his health.
Now, Rick Terry Jewelry Design. We want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. And next up, John Campbell Jr. I thought he was a heavy-footed player. I don't know what he what he did exactly in the combine. They haven't released a lot of those numbers. They go back and forth, just so you know. Sometimes they'll send out a mass release of all the numbers. Other times they'll be closed. Poor Condridge Holloway used to have to run that thing, and it was just like he took orders from somebody, and sometimes he had to be a jerk, and sometimes he was just completely helpful. But John Campbell Jr., I thought was heavy-footed. Tennessee to get what they got out of him, which was a consistent starter at right tackle. I'm hot on him.
Yes, John Campbell Jr., I thought they maxed out. I'm hot on him. I'm cold on him for the pros. I don't think he's going to make it in the NFL, though. I just don't think he has he doesn't have quick enough feet.
No, I agree with that. Will Brooks, same thing. I don't think he's necessarily fast enough, but I'm hot on what Tennessee got out of him.
I'm extremely hot on what Tennessee got out of him. A walk-on safety that was one of the best players on the team last year. I mean, yeah, I'm incredibly hot on Will Brooks.
Yep, agreed. Dane Davis, again, no offense to Dane, but I thought he was a little heavy-footed, and I thought that they got the most that they could out of him.
I'm cold because he's not going to make it in the NFL. They didn't stick Dane Davis to one position. Had they stuck him to one position, he probably could have been more effective.
Okay. Andre Keurig, if we're having this conversation following the 2023 season, we're probably cold on what they got out of him. At the end, I give Glenn Ellerbe a lot of credit for coaching him up and turning him into a solid player.
I agree. Glenn Ellerbe gets a lot of credit for Andre Keurig's improvement, and I'm hot on him. I thought they got what they needed out of him. It just took them a year.
Okay, I'm going to jump forward to Keenan Pili. Man, I really think he would be one of the better linebackers in Tennessee football history had he not been hurt. I saw a couple of flashes before he got hurt twice. I just hate it for that young man because I think he was going to be a very special player.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's kind of sad what happened. You have to be cold on him, but it's nobody's fault. He just couldn't stay healthy. So, no. By the way,
Daniel says, I'm glad Campbell is gone. Far too many penalties. Will Brooks is up for best walk-on all time. Was Bill Bates a walk-on?
I don't think Bill Bates was a walk-on. I can't go that far back, but I mean, Kelly Washington was a walk-on and 1,000-yard receiver. Now, yes, the two you skipped over. Eli Purcell, walk-on linebacker, we're not going to do. Matthew Solansky, how dare you skip over him? Long snappers are underrated. And Dave, Tennessee's field goal kicking, was it ever a problem the last 3 or 4 years? They had 3 different kickers, and they were all reliable because the long snapper is as important to field goal kicking as the kicker. Justin Tucker went from the greatest kicker of all time to a mediocre kicker who the Ravens almost wanted to cut the minute he lost Morgan Cox as his long snapper, because Morgan Cox from Tennessee is the greatest long snapper of all time.
Greatest long snapper of all time.
We should try to get him on the show just to talk about the importance of long snapping. He played for Kiffin. He's the greatest long snapper of all time.
The greatest long snapper of all time.
I am making it my life's work to give the long snapper as much credit as the kicker for elite field goal kicking in a team.